Safe and effective, the mantra trotted out by governments worldwide to promote the COVID vaccine. Safe and effective, 100% effective at preventing serious hospitalizations and death. Very silly to make such an easily falsified claim. Why not shave it down to 95%? More of the same and more. Safe and highly effective. That's the NHS getting on the bandwagon, and one from Ealing. Highest standards of safety and efficacy. The fact is, the claim could not honestly be made back then because there was no way of knowing. Whether or not they were actually safe and effective is beside the point. You could not honestly make the claim because it was far too early to tell. However, the agreement between Pfizer and the South African government has now been made public. You can see it was made what looks like a few months before it happened in the UK in March 21 rather than November 2020, whenever it was over here. And it makes clear that Pfizer required their clients to accept that no such claim could be made. Section 5, the warrant is given. Purchaser acknowledgement, the purchaser is the government, obviously. Purchaser acknowledges that the vaccine and materials related to the vaccine and their components and constituent materials are being rapidly developed due to the emergency circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic and will continue to be studied after provision of the vaccine to purchaser under this agreement. In other words, just remember we're rushing all of this, okay? And then, purchaser further acknowledges that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccine are not currently known and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccine that are not currently known. And the South African government signed off on this, acknowledging that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccine are not currently known and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccines that are not currently known. It is inconceivable that the contract that the British government had with Pfizer would be in any substantial way different. Pfizer wouldn't allow them to not acknowledge this. It would be in every single contract. So our lot would also have acknowledged that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccine are not currently known and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccine that are not currently known. And they promptly went on to tell absolutely no one about this. So while the propaganda was one thing, they were putting something very different in writing to Pfizer. At the same time as this was being promised to the public, they were recognizing an obvious fact of reality as required by Pfizer that that public claim could not be made. Not that it was necessarily false. Could have been safe and effective, could not have been safe and effective, but that's not the point. Simply that the claim could not be made in the first place according to the manufacturers. The public statement is directly contradicted by the private one. Of course, I am assuming that the UK government had approximately the same contract with the manufacturers, but it's inconceivable that it would have been substantially different because they would have required all their customers to accept the same reality. And that wording of the contract would have had a radical uptake on the product, which is why we hope, we think, but we actually don't know whether or not it's safe and effective, became safe and effective. I put the propaganda compared to the reality in as graphic a tweet as I could manage. It might be worth sharing across your social media accounts. The link is in the description.